nightmare has come to Flint City, Oklahoma, as an 11-year-old boy is found brutally murdered in a local park. An unspeakable crime that rocks local law enforcement to its core as the most heinous atrocity anyone there has ever witnessed. Equally stunning is the identity of the prime suspect, Terry Matlin, one of Flint City's most popular citizens, as well as Little League coach, English teacher, and devoted husband and father. Detective Ralph Anderson, whose own son Matlin once coached, orders a quick and very public arrest. Multiple eyewitnesses and irrefutable evidence mean an ironclad case, until the investigation expands and horrifying new details begin to emerge. Terry Matlin seems like a nice guy, but is he wearing another face? When the answer is revealed, it will shock you as only master storyteller Stephen King can. The Outsider is a 560-page thriller by Stephen King. It was published in 2018 by Gallery Books, which is an imprint of Simon & Schuster. So what made me choose this Stephen King book? I'll tell you. So a couple months ago, Brad Proctor did a read-along on his channel for If It Bleeds by Stephen King, which is a short story collection. The title story, If It Bleeds, was my absolute favorite. I loved it, and it's about Holly Gibney and an outsider. In talking with Brad and Una as I read that story, Brad told me that there was more Holly Gibney books, that there was The Outsider and the Bill Hodges trilogy. Totally reading it all backwards, and that's okay. So another really funny thing is reading this book and then having read If It Bleeds with Brad Proctor and Kasha and Bookland and the guys from Codex Cantina. If you have never watched the Codex Cantina's channel, they're a literary channel. They focus on what I call the greats as far as classic literature. They just break it down, they analyze it, they have a discussion. And I'll be honest with you, I have no interest in reading those types of works. And the reason why is because I don't understand it. But with the way that Una and Crypto format their videos, they provide all of the missing information needed to understand the story. They research it and tell you why things were the way they were and what the setting was and the beliefs of the people and the religion. Like, they break all of that down, they analyze it, they have a really good thought-provoking discussion at the end. So while I have no interest in reading that, I absolutely love to hear them talk about it and discuss it. And I've learned a lot. And even though I don't read those stories, I do love to talk about the meaning behind the stories with them. It's kind of like an educational channel. So the reason why I tell you this, the Codex Cantina was part of the If It Bleeds read-along. In The Outsider, one thing I noticed, just like in the If It Bleeds collection, Stephen King references a lot of other authors, real authors. Before the Codex Cantina, I did not know who any of those guys were. Those names meant nothing to me. As far as I knew, they were completely made up. But no, they kept just jumping off the page at me. And then I started researching. I'm like, what kind of authors are these guys? Like, what kind of meaning do they have to this story? The Codex Cantina has really caused me to take more notice of my surroundings in a story, which only enhances my appreciation of the material that I'm reading. And Una told me, he said, you'd be surprised by how many of your current authors are influenced by the greats. So keep that in mind, guys. And if you haven't checked out their channel, you should do so. The Outsider is a phenomenal story. It starts out with the murder of an 11-year-old boy, and it is a horrible, horrible event. Nothing like that has ever happened in Flint City before. All of the preliminary evidence points straight to Terry Matlin. There are so many eyewitnesses. I mean, everybody knows who Coach T is. I mean, when you're a Little League coach and an English teacher, people are going to know who you are. So there's all these eyewitnesses, all of this evidence at the scene. It's ironclad. Like, he is the guy. But is he? There's so many things that don't add up. He's arrested and he provides an iron-tight alibi. Like, how can he be in two places at once? Was it planned? Does he have a twin that nobody knows about? A doppelganger? Like, what's happening? How is it this man committed this terrible act? An act that no one would have ever suspected him of being able to commit. And he says he maintains his innocence, but then there's so much irrefutable evidence that claims that he did. The Outsider is a story of how local law enforcement and the little town of Flint City, how they are processing this information. Law enforcement are trying to discern, like, what evidence is real, like, how does this make sense? So much confusion because there's so much hard evidence that support Terry's innocence as well as supports his guilt. But because of the very public arrest, the town sees Terry as guilty, even though he hasn't even had a trial yet. He's not even been questioned by the police. But because of the way he was arrested, everyone knew he was arrested for the murder of this 11-year-old child. To their eyes, he was guilty, and that's all there was to it. So we watch this story unfold as law enforcement is trying to determine if he is guilty, if he is innocent. Town folks start kind of boiling over with their own emotions about what should and should not be done. Fantastic story, just insane. It's something that could happen any day, but it is Stephen King. It does have a supernatural twist to it. I really, really enjoy when you can take a story with so much information that literally could happen tomorrow. You know, you sew in some threads of supernatural activity, but you do it in a way that you make it believable. I love that sort of thing. It fascinates me. So yes, I enjoyed this book very much. Would I read it again? Of course I'll read it again. The reread capability of The Outsider is just way up there on the level. It has increased my desire to read more of King's work, so I'm really looking forward into delving into more. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you enjoyed this little chat. If you have read this book, let me know what you think of it down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. I also want to know if you think I should read the Stephen King books in publication order or whatever order I choose. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.